Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me again. It's been a while since I've done a cooking demo. We were off for a few weeks. I did a cleanse for 2 weeks, so some of the food I was eating was a bit more bland. But I'm back to eating wheat and dairy and things like that. So I'm making handmade pasta today. So we're going to start with 2 cups of flour, and you can use all-purpose flour, although the recipe that I'm starting with is one specifically asking for type 00 flour. It's a flour that's a bit finer, so that helps with making your pasta. And the recipe actually comes from this particular book, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, which is also a Netflix series. So if you have a chance, it's a really, really great series. Only 4 episodes, and each episode is based on each of the words in the title. Now, the original recipe calls for 2 large eggs and 3 egg yolks, but I want to try an experiment today and use duck eggs, mostly because duck eggs the yolks are a lot bigger, almost, I feel, double the size sometimes of regular eggs. I'm going to try and do a bit of an experiment so I can show you the difference. So I just broke a duck egg into the ramekin here, and then this is a regular egg, and these are both organic eggs, so you can see the size of the yolk is a lot bigger, and you also have that richness of the duck egg. So I'll start with just putting these 2 eggs into the center of the flour in a well. It's made a nice little heart here, and I'm going to add in 1 more duck egg. The thing to do when you're adding eggs into any recipe is to always break the eggs separately first. That way, if you end up with a bad egg, I ended up with a bad duck egg earlier in the week, it doesn't ruin everything else in your bowl. So I'm going to start by just beating some of the eggs that are already in the well, and then add the last one. And I'll have to adjust this recipe a bit if it seems like there's not enough moisture, then I can always add in another yolk or a bit of water. But for now, let's see how it goes. So you slowly incorporate the flour into the liquid. It can be a bit messy at first, but that's okay. And when half the flour is has absorbed the liquid, that's when you can start working on it with your hands. So we're just about there. I sense I'm gonna have to add another yolk. It already feels like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a regular egg yolk. Of course, to separate, you can separate using your fingers, or you can just use the shell. There we go. Adding 1 more yolk. And you'll notice that the yolks are really, really different colors. So the end product of this pasta, this egg pasta that we're making, is going to have the rich kind of color that we got from those duck eggs, which is great. I made some bolognese sauce last night, or yesterday, mostly because I recently got a juicer, and I was making some carrot and celery juice, and I didn't want to waste the pulp, so ended up putting that pulp in the bolognese sauce that I made yesterday, which was kind of funny because we were actually having some friends over for dinner. So I ended up making a whole other dish and then a whole bunch of other dishes. But we will get to enjoy the bolognese tonight with some fresh pasta, and that's one dish that I love to have in the fridge all the time. Okay, so we'll probably need just a little bit more moisture, so I'm going to add a little bit of water. But you can see that we're still missing some of the flour still hasn't been absorbed. So what you really want to do is have everything come together, absorbing all the flour, and then eventually what I'll do is I'll turn this out onto that board over there that I have on the counter, and then we'll knead it a bit more. I'm starting this dough a little bit about a couple hours before we're going to eat, mostly because you really need to have the dough rest if you want it to be easy to roll out. All right. So now we've got pretty much the dough all together, and then what I'll do is sprinkle a little bit of flour onto my board here, and then continue to knead this dough. So a little bit more flour. All right. So once again, if you don't have type 00 flour, that's okay. All-purpose flour will do. I've never really experimented with bread flour to see how that works, but I would imagine bread flour being a bit finer, that would also work too. And what you want to do is just knead for another 4 to 5 minutes until you get like a smooth dough together. So I'm just going to continue to work this dough, and then I'll let you join again once I'm done kneading for 45 minutes, and then you can 4 to 5 minutes, and then you can actually see what the end product is. Okay, so we're back, and I've been kneading the dough for a few minutes now. One recipe note using the duck eggs that I noticed, I needed to add in a little bit of water in order to make sure the dough wasn't too dry. What you really want at the end is a nice smooth dough. If you're finding when you're kneading that the dough is really, really hard, you will have to add more moisture. So now we've ended up with a nice, smooth, uniform dough, and we need to let this rest for at least 20 to 40 minutes, but ideally for maybe an hour or two. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this up, add a little bit of flour, and sprinkle. There we go. And just wrap this up and leave it at room temperature for the next couple of hours. And then later on, we'll come back and roll this out and make some pasta. Okay, so we're back, and the pasta has been resting for around almost 2 hours now. So I'm just going to cut the pasta into just 1/4. And then we'll just keep the rest wrapped up while we work with that one section. And I'm just going to show you how to just hand roll your pasta. So just flatten out slightly dusted board, and I find the easiest way is to work with a small section. If your dough's a little bit too big, then it'll be harder to get it nice and thin. You can also use a pasta machine, but I kind of prefer the hand rolled version. I don't know, it's just me. I think there's something really sort of rustic about doing it by hand so that the pieces aren't perfect. And depending on what shape you're looking for tonight, because we have bolognese, so I'm going to do kind of thicker, wider noodles. And because they're wider, I'm going to try and get thinner. Although if you can't get your dough really, really thin, then what you can do is cut thinner but thicker noodles, and that's more like a spaghetti. But you want to get it to the point where it's almost translucent, so you can sort of see the wood through the board. You can actually see the wood grains. And then I'm going to dust the rolled out dough with some semolina flour, which is a bit more grainy, just to make sure it doesn't stick. And the way I usually do it is just roll up my dough like so. That, and then with a really sharp knife and with a good amount of force, dust a little bit more semolina on top, and then loosen up the rolls. So you end up with a nice mound of pasta, fresh pasta, that will cook very, very quickly. And then once I have it cooking in the water just for a couple of minutes, then I will dump it in with my sauce later. So that's just one beautiful mound of pasta. I'm going to do the other 3, and then we'll get to cooking the pasta with my bolognese, which is on the stove right now. So I'm just going to cover this up. Dave, try not to put anything on top of that sheet. You can join me when I roll out the rest of my pasta. So we're back. I've cooked up the 3 bunches of pasta, but I'm just doing the last mound now, to give you a sense of the process. It's really quite fast because you'll really want the pasta to stay al dente, so it bites back a little bit, and with fresh pasta it doesn't even take longer than just a couple of minutes. So I already have my bolognese sauce that I made yesterday, and that's on the side, but what I'm doing right now is cooking up that last mound of pasta, fishing it out and into the sauce, trying to reserve the pasta water in case I need to add that into the sauce. And then you really want to just toss your pasta in the bolognese so it absorbs some of that meaty goodness. In this bolognese, I was actually using, which I don't usually do, but I was trying to use what was in my freezer. So I was using Italian sausage, just like the loose filling, as well as a bit of bacon and some pork. But usually I like to have beef in my bolognese. And it just takes a couple of minutes just to finish off the pasta, but that's pretty much where it's done. I'm just going to add a tiny scoop of the pasta water. Okay. And then just give it another toss. It's never bad to sneak a little piece. Taste. Perfect. And just to plate, I'm going to turn this off. I didn't add much chili to this bolognese this time around. So what we'll do is I usually add some chili just on top. So usually sprinkle of chili, like so, and then a little bit of cheese, Parmigiano, Reggiano, and just a little drizzle of some good olive oil. And there we go. And that is dinner for tonight. Fresh pasta with bolognese sauce.